Hey, just decided this, and I'm just hoping to make a short video this time around. Anyway, I was going to talk about consoles, but then all of a sudden I heard Valve's coming out with their SteamBox. You know what? I'm just going to say it right here up front. I think it's mostly just BS. Hey, I think Valve's run these little April Fool-like jokes on us before, even though it's not really April Fools, but they've run April Fool-like jokes that weren't really on April Fools. Secondly, they're not, well, according to, I guess, the rumor areas, quote unquote, how can I put it? Valve, if they do make a console under what they're planning on doing, it most likely will fail because it's been done to death. It's not really the specs or anything, but well, the first thing is they want to have all digital downloads. That part hasn't been done to death. It's been only done twice, but right now it's not really a good idea because if you guys remember the Apple Pippin and the Microsoft's original Xbox, which were both not very successful, mainly because they were thinking too hard. Too far ahead. You know, the Apple Pippin had the modem, and by the way, that port in the back is a modem. You just put in a modem jack. And the Xbox had an Ethernet, but no phone port. In the PS2, you know, you can get that little add-on with the Ethernet and the phone port on it, and people were okay with it. Mainly because back then, mostly everybody was on dial-up, and fast Ethernet just wasn't possible back then. But then again, the Apple Pippin with their little dial-up, it wasn't such a good idea because a lot of gameplay was slowed down due to really slow time. But mostly what they want to do is build a whole spec like things and pass it off to other companies, like how I guess Android has their phones done. Well, this has been done in consoles before, you know, where other companies would build a console based on the specs that the other company gave them, you know, like Valve or Google's Android, and it's been done in consoles. Not like most other consoles, because Nintendo and all of them, and Microsoft and Sony would basically, what they would build is a shell and then send it out to a bunch of different companies to try to build the insides to match the inside shell of what they created, so that they would be able to then take that all to a certain manufacturing plant, something like Foxconn, and then they would be able to piece it all together and then ship it all off. And all they're really doing is licensing the insides, but as far as the console itself, it would be a product done by the actual corporation. You know, like Nintendo's Wii was made by Nintendo, Microsoft's Xbox 360 was made by Microsoft, and Sony's PlayStation 3 was made by PlayStation, because, you know, they created the outer casing, but the inner casing and stuff was created by other companies. But the so-called plan that they want to have for Valve is not really that good. I mean, they're going to say, okay, these other companies are going to develop their own form of consoles with their own innards, and I just don't see it because, well, Apple did it with their Pippin, but they only got Bandai to do it, and the console failed. And then for some reason, Philips did the same thing with their CDI, where other companies would develop the entire consoles, and they can and of course with Philips you can randomly price it, and they were pretty pricey, but it didn't matter because the CDIs were all built like shit. I mean, most of them put the controller jack in the back of the CDI. Why? And they also built it like a giant DVD player, thinking that people would, you know, want to watch movies more than they want to play with a gaming console. In fact, with the Philips CDI, it was like the whole gaming porting thing was a second thought, and that just killed Philips on that area. And then you had the 3DO Corporation. who did the exact same thing. Put out their specs, had other people build their consoles for them in many different versions, and it destroyed them. In fact, the 3DO company is dead because of it. In fact, the other problem is that, well, the first and second generation was very big. I mean, the U.S. corporations were very dominant in the console wars, especially with the second generation with the 2600. That thing was the most dominant one, and it killed the Intellivision, the ColecoVision. Well, it beat them. I don't, even though they were both considered good consoles in their own rights. And then the 2600 later ended up beating the Atari 5200, and the 2600 just became so dominant that later in the third console generation war, when Nintendo finally came out, Nintendo just finally got rid of the 2600s. The Atari 2600s never survived. But after that, the pretty much the United States hasn't really made a good console until the Microsoft Xbox 360, and even that's in second place next to Nintendo's Wii. I mean, if anything, the United States, after this whole second consoles, has taken up the list of creating the worst consoles, and I think the U.S. has taken up like four slots already, starting up with the Mattel Hyperscan. And it's sad because Mattel used to create, the Mattel Intellivision, and that was one of the greatest consoles out there, but now they created the Hyperscan, and it's shown how far they've fallen. And by the way, the Mattel Hyperscan was created in 2007, Xbox 360 era. Of course, Atari, they fell badly. They created the Atari Jaguar, which was a complete and utter fucking joke. And as well as the CDI and the 3DO and the Apple Pippin. So right now, my whole stance on U.S. console making is pretty low. And if Steam really going to come out with this console, which I don't think they are, they're going to really, really, really hurt themselves if they go with the plan that has not only failed 3 consecutive times, but has just blown up and even destroyed one whole company. I mean, the 3DO company is dead because of this plan. It doesn't seem like a viably good idea, and I don't understand it at all. Yes, gaming consoles are starting to take over the living room, but you need a system that you can develop on your own with, innards made by other companies, but at least you can have a console that was created by yourself and not, listed out there as somebody else, and then having a whole bunch of different versions of the exact same console made, and in 3DO's case, priced up to $700. I mean, the Apple Pippin was $600, and of course the PS3, which is like last place in this generation, started out at $600, which was not a good thing for them. And of course the Philips CDI just sucked, and so did the Mattel Hyperscan and the Atari Jaguar, along with the Atari 5600. But yeah, either Valve's got a really bad idea, or a bad idea that's failed in front of them, or they just fucking pulling everybody's chain again. That's all I have to say.